Mid-90s, the movie that we are going to talk about today, is a perfect example to the question, what is, essentially, a coming of age? Well, if we had to define it in a simple sentence, it would be a genre in which the main character, or characters, learn something from the experience they go through the movie. Of course, from this big perspective, we could say that films such as Goodfellas, Carrie, or Seven, which aren't strictly coming of ages, have that learning spirit. In Goodfellas, for example, Henry learns the mafia codes and who to trust or not. That spirit is also present in a completely different genre like a coming of age, in movies like Superbad or Booksmart. Doesn't it happen the same, at a great scale? However, coming of age films are the most fertile genre in terms of learning a lesson. Why is this? Because to learn a lesson, characters have to, somehow, enter new worlds. In these cases, characters confront a very tough but necessary world, adolescence. Following our previous notion regarding how other non-coming-of-age films share some aspects with this genre, we could think about Seven. Here, David Mills has a strong characteristic that makes the character fertile for learning. His almost uncontrollable anger. Take Vertigo, to go to another pole of movie genres. Scott is retired, clueless about how his life will go on, and on top of that, he has agoraphobia. All these characteristics make him the perfect candidate for Gavin Elser to manipulate, but also, ironically, to give him a lesson. Let's go to mid-90s. As we said before, in this genre, characters have to enter the teen world to suffer changes and finally learn something. This world has multiple sub-elements which conform it. The first, an essential one, is the mentor figure. Of course, if there is a mentor, there is an apprentice, who is not usually a good student. A mentor is not only a character that will teach the apprentice, but also it is a figure in which the main character will look up to and even try to mimic. For example, in Skate Kitchen, the female counterpart of mid-90s, the mentor of Camille is Janae, relationship that has very similar consequences. In Rumblefish, of course, it's Motorcycle Kid. In mid-90s, our mentor is Ray, and our apprentice is Stevie, Sunburn. Teens need role models. Stevie sees in Ray a style, a sense of coolness, and fundamentally, his ability to skate, the new world Stevie would like to enter. However, as we stated before, apprentices are not always following the right paths. Furthermore, Stevie will constantly make mistakes in his road to being an adult. In films, a concept like make a mistake has to somehow become material. What happens in mid-90s is that every error that Stevie makes will be translated into a blow, a hit to the wall. Let's go to the starting shot of the movie. Stevie, out of a room, hits the wall of his house corridor. Right away, we see his brother, Ian, beating him. We could establish a double hit comparison as well as a double mentor situation. While Ray is his real mentor, Ian is the fake one. And while Stevie will constantly hit himself, he will also engage in a bunch of fights. In the next scene, we see Stevie entering the world of his brother and his music, as we can witness by this slow-mo traveling shot and the revealing music. An important detail to note here is that moments before this, Ian prohibited the entrance of Stevie to his room.
Stay out of my fucking room, Stevie!
He disobeys the order, so the entrance to his brother's room isn't simply that. Symbolically, he enters the world of rebellion. Just take a look at this shot of Stevie and his new friends skating in the middle of the street towards the camera. Next up, we are going to enter the main sub-world of the movie, skating. In this montage scene, we see Stevie falling again and again. This scene resumes what the movie and the main concept will be. Stevie enters into a new world following the path of his role model. To enforce this idea, a hit is the first thing we see in the movie. Being aware of this, Jonah Hill closes the movie through a tragic accident, the biggest hit of all. However, there are many middle hits throughout the movie. Let's take a look at this scene, for example, in which Stevie, pushed by his brother Ian, steals $80 from his mother. As we said before, this represents the world of rebellion, but also the illegal, topic that usually comes with being a teenager. Then, he rebels to his brother, betraying him by not admitting he committed the robbery with him.
I know Ian did it. He's saying you did it with him. Did you?
No.
Then, consequences will arise, as he gets a beating by Ian. The mechanism of the movie is as follows: getting into a new world, failing, and getting a punishment. The strongest middle hit will be the following. Stevie and the gang, which we are going to address later, are skating in a roof. Again, world of skating, world of rebellion, as they are skating in a somewhat prohibited place. His role models jump through the hole perfectly, but Ruben, his homie and false equivalent, is not brave enough and intelligent to take that leap. Stevie, however, in his impulse to fit in this group, takes the ride, but fails miserably. Skating, rebellion, and finally, a hit. Various failures in his entrance to new worlds will also appear when he smokes for the first time in cuffs, lying about his experience with cigarettes, rubbing his leg after stealing his mother's money, another beating by his brother after a party, leading to a clumsy suicide attempt, and the nervousness after his first sexual experience. These sequences make us think of the global structure of mid-90s, always following a pattern: new world, new consequences. These middle failures make the final hit so strong because the ending is not only shocking by nature, but also because we are tragically prepared for the final big blow. Finally, let's talk a little about his group, or his gang, as he sees it. As we said before, Ray is his role model, his mentor, the person which Stevie looks up to in his search of being cool. Fatchit, the second coolest member, is very similar to Ruben, in the sense of being a fake mentor compared to Ray. Unlike Ray, Fatchit doesn't want to progress in life, he simply is what he is. He doesn't have a job, has bad grades at school, and doesn't have anything in the horizon. In fact, we can take a glimpse at this scene where he tries to approach to the skating pros in a ridiculous attitude. This scene demonstrates that not only Stevie, who is a newly teenager, but also Fatchit, who is in the verge of adulthood, fails in his search of acknowledgement. Ruben, as we said before, is the fake apprentice. He brags about living the life, lies about members of the group having a nickname unlike Sunburn, but, as we see in this scene, he has a very complicated life, getting out of the car to enter his house, but finally goes elsewhere. All of this witnessed by Stevie. And finally, we have 4th grade, perhaps the most curious character of the gang. He's the one who registers all of their adventures and finally editing them up to show it to the rest. He's like a sort of inside director of the guys. Naturally, differences will appear. Ruben pushes Stevie, which leads to a fight. Also, we can see a lot of angry looks by Ruben towards Stevie as he gains popularity and acceptance from the group. Fatchit is rejected by Ray when he tries to approach to the skating pros. Then, this snowballs into the accident we will see later. What can we conclude? Well, for instance, that coming of ages are, merely, a genre in which the main character, or characters, learn something provoked by his or their failed experience. This, as we said before, not only applies to strict teen movies, but also to a lot of other genres and characters, maybe teaching us that a lesson can't only be taught in the early stages of life, but these are definitely the most fertile scenarios for personal growth. Well, that's it for now, and see you next week on C Cinema.
If you like the video, please comment, like and subscribe.